Welcome to the City of Buffalo Mayoral Candidate Forum. We're excited this evening to have a few candidates and some awesome questions to ask of them. We are having some technical difficulties with Mr. Eric Anderson, so we're hoping that he will be joining us momentarily. We have current Mayor Terry Lockemeyer with us, and we have candidate Sue Matson. So welcome all. The process will be, we have a set of 6 questions we will be asking, and you will each get 2 minutes to answer those questions. And if you're running towards the deadline there, I will let you know that there's 20 seconds left or 5 seconds left before we cut you off. So try to keep your answers as succinct as you can. Questions, the order of the questions were your names were randomly put in at the city here today and randomly selected. So the order of the questions will start with Mr. Anderson if he's on, Ms. Lockemeyer, and Ms. Matson. And then as I ask each question, you'll each get an opportunity to answer the questions first as we go through them. So to start with, you will each get a little 2-minute intro. And if we go in that order, with the absence of Mr. Anderson, we'll start with current Mayor Terry Lockemeyer to give your 2-minute intro.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the Chamber and I want to thank the City of Buffalo for putting on the forum. I think it's a great opportunity for the residents of our community to get to know the people that are on the ballot, and I appreciate that. And I'd like to say my name's Terry Lockemeyer. I'm the current mayor. I've lived in Buffalo for my adult life and most of my youth. I'm married to David Greggy, and we have 3 children, Dustin, Garrett, and Gabby. Dustin's married and has a 1-year-old and lives in Buffalo. So it's been very exciting to raise your kids here and have them want to come back and live here and raise their children here. I think that says a lot for the community as a whole. I've been on council for 16 years and mayor for 4. Been involved in several of the committees that are affiliated with the city, and I love to work with the chamber as well as the schools, the businesses, the county, and everyone that kind of has that buy-in to our community. So I like to work collaboratively. I enjoy being part of that bigger picture. I love working with the citizens as well as the council and staff of Buffalo, and hope to become that, be in that situation again. So I think that's all I'm going to say for now, and introductions.
Thank you. Ms. Matson.
Hello, my name is Sue Matson, and I hope to serve as the next mayor of Buffalo. I was born and raised in a small town in southern Minnesota, completed my undergraduate work at St. Cloud State in elementary education and special education. My master's coursework is in parent education and family life education, and I think both of those fields, or all of those fields, will lend themselves well to the work as a mayor. I've called Buffalo my home since 1972. So for most of my adult life, I've been here, moved here with my husband, Gary, by way of Mannheim, Germany, where I volunteered for the Red Cross and worked for the United States Department of Defense to develop programs in the Army dependent schools for children who have learning disabilities. When we returned stateside, we settled in Buffalo to be closer to where Gary's family was, and we brought with us a 10-day-old daughter. Well, since then, there have been 5 such daughters in our family, along with some other foster care and child care people that we provide services to. My grandchildren live here as well. And with each addition to our household, there were many community events, community programs, community everything that is involved when you're raising a family. And that turned into becoming involved in civic leadership and more advocacy for others that needed assistance. For the past 19 years, I have served as the life skills and adult basic ed instructor for the men and women who are incarcerated in our Lake County Jail. I remain current on city practices, civically are attending meetings, participating in core groups, talking to administration, and researching city documents. So I bring to the office of mayor my history with the city, my broad personal, professional, and volunteer experience, and I'm truly invested in Buffalo and all of her citizens.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, we will keep moving on. And again, if Mr. Anderson is able to get in to our tech system here, we will include him as we go. So we will start with question number 1 and start with Mayor Lockemeyer. What is Buffalo's biggest financial challenge and how will you address it?
What is Buffalo's biggest financial challenge? That's a really good question. I think there's several things that are currently being worked on right now. I mean, we've done some studies on our electric and our water utility bills, and I think that's kind of one of those things that are really affecting the citizens of Buffalo. And I think it's something that we needed to dig deep into. We also need to completely look at those assets that may not always benefit everyone in the community. So we're always looking at things like the golf course and the civic center, and seeing how they fit together in the community and how we can either make them more financially stable or self-sustaining, different ideas on how to get them in the community more so that they're not such a financial strain. We need to really look kind of at our overall financial situation, and we need to study it so that we're making better future plans for the way that we spend and the way that we our debt, our amount of debt. So really that study is going to give us a lot of information, and I think I kudos to the staff and the people that have put that information together, because it really gives the community a better transparency on how spending happens and how the city really is financially stable, and how we are planning ahead like 10 years in order to make sure that those financial responsibilities are kept intact, and that we're aware of how the citizens are their different sufferings, and that we're listening to them and making those adjustments as they go. So I would say, really doing that analysis on the utilities and making sure that we're taking care of the financial issues that are maybe a burden to the community, and make sure that they're more of an asset than a burden. That's all.
Great, thank you. Welcome, Mr. Anderson. Can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
We can. All right. I will give you 2 minutes to introduce yourself, and you are actually assigned to be first to answer the question we just asked. So right after you introduce yourself, I'll go right into that same question for you, and then we'll end that question with Ms. Mattson.
Sounds good. Well, sorry I'm late. I had some computer issues and had to get things figured out here and start my computer, so it took a little while. I'm Eric Anderson. I have lived in Buffalo all my life for 50 years, with the exception of going off to college and living there for several years. I first started out with the city of Buffalo as a police reserve officer, and I spent almost 2 years doing that. And then I became a licensed police officer with the city of Buffalo. And I've worked for the city of Buffalo, and I currently work for the city of Howard Lake as a police sergeant. I also spent 11 and a half years working for the Buffalo Fire Department as a firefighter, in which I served as elected secretary for the fire department and the fire relief board at that time. And I've also been a city council member for the last 6 years. And I made the decision to make a challenge and run for mayor this year to see what happens. I'm married to Valerie Anderson, former name Lindquist, maiden name, and we have 3 children. My daughter is married and lives in Rockford, Haley. My older son is currently in college in Florida, and my youngest son is a 9th grader at Buffalo High School. So I'll kind of keep it short so we can kind of keep going where we're at, but that's kind of my little opening statement there on who I am.
Great, thank you. So question number 1, which again will be you were assigned first, so we're backtracking a bit, but what is Buffalo's biggest financial challenge and how will you address it? And again, we have 2 minutes to answer the questions. Why don't all 3 of you, when you see me do this, that means you have 20 seconds. I don't want to do that, but 20, and this will mean 5. Okay, so when I do this, no, you have 20 seconds to wrap it up. I know when I do this, you have to cut it so short. So we'll give you 2 warnings. So go ahead, Eric. Do you need me to restate that?
Sure, you want to read it just one more time for me?
What is Buffalo's biggest financial challenge, and how will you address it?
I think right now I could say maybe the biggest challenge that the city of Buffalo is facing right now, and we hear a lot of it from taxpayers and residents that are making comments. But I think if we look at it from me being on city council for the last 6 years, I guess my answer to that would be kind of where the city financially is right now at this point. And that affects a lot of things. There's currently a lot of city debt out there, at this point that for the first time since I've been on council is finally being addressed. The city is currently going through a financial management plan. And to be honest, it really enlightened me and brought to my attention to the degree of where the city is at with some of the debt. But along with that, it also showed me some of the areas that we can better be working to bring some of that financial debt down. And I'm hoping that that can be one of the things that if I'm elected as mayor, we can really work hard for in the next at least 2 years to bring that debt down. And overall, that's going to make a major effect on other things that we look at, such as taxes and how we can fund other things inside the city that we need to work on.
Great, thank you. And Ms. Mattson, I'll repeat it for you as well. What is Buffalo's biggest financial challenge and how will you address it?
So on this one, first I'll defer to the two who are already on the council and the mayor, because they're the ones who, have been part and parcel to where our financial issues are at this point. And I was glad to see at the last council meeting, the announcement of the new studies that's being done for our utilities and to understand better how our utilities are billed and for people to be able to self-manage that. And so I think beyond what they've already said, I would include the fact that if people are given more information, if our city citizens are given more information on how these work and given that information in a way that they can better understand, they won't have to make up their own ideas about what's going on. So I would like to just see more solid information given to the people, much like what was done at this last meeting, the last council meeting with it was Joe Steffel, who had presented more about what new assessments are happening and how people can be helped.
Thank you. Question 2, and we'll start with Mayor Lockemeyer on this. How do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in Buffalo?
Well, I talked about this a little bit earlier that in some of the, actually in a podcast that we had, I would love to see them do what's been happening over the last year and a half, that people come to meetings, that they volunteer to be on boards, that if they're interested in something, if you have a passion for something that you see happening in the city, ask us questions. Our emails, our phone numbers are they're in the paper, they're on our website. We have staff that'll answer those questions. If there's something that you're concerned about and you want to see happen, if you brought it to council to an open forum, we can direct you or staff to give you some information so that you can get involved. And I think there are several boards, and not to say there aren't other areas that we can improve on. One of them is, we definitely got to remember that we have to stay open to people that want to come live here. We have to welcome them, and we have to show them the assets of our city, and we have to show them the things that they can get involved in. So the more that we all involve each other, the more we're going to feel like a community, and we're going to work better together, and people are going to have a better understanding because they're involved. So if you're a young person or you're someone who has a family with children, we can find ways to plug you in and get you involved and coming to different events and finding out what we're doing and how we can do it better. We need more people involved to tell us what their needs and wants are. So I've always wanted people involved. That has been number one since the day. I've always said include, not exclude. I really feel like every age group needs to be included. We can't just talk about the young people. We've got to talk about the aging population and the ones in the middle. Everyone should be able to have an opportunity to be part of the community and take part in it in a way that they're involved. So we welcome you. Just come and ask the questions and we'll help direct you.
Awesome, thank you. Ms. Mattson, would you like me to repeat the question?
Sure.
All right. How do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in Buffalo?
Well, actually, the Minnesota League of Cities has a wonderful publication out there that is called Is Your City Creating Obstacles to Participation? And they've given some wonderful ideas about involving people before and after city council meetings. I've thought about, I am having ongoing listening sessions, ongoing communication, things that are outside of the actual council meetings. I think that a monthly newsletter used to happen, and I'd like to see that happen again. And not just digitally, because a lot of our people here don't have that access or don't favor that access. So I'd like to see some version of the newsletter happen. I would like to see the bulletin board, the digital bulletin board, go back up what was at one time by the fire station, so that people don't know what questions to ask if they don't know enough information, or they don't know what's going on if they don't first have enough information. So it's not all on the people to come and ask. It's still for our city administration and council to put things out there where it causes people to question, causes people to want to be part of it. I'd like to see, for instance, the paper. It's the application thing for involvement for city boards. I don't believe that it's complete at this point. And for instance, now just recently was the student representative that was added to the council. However, there is no blank on there for student representatives to sign up. There is no blank on there for people to sign up if they're interested in, for instance, the heritage preservation. So I just think there's a little cleanup that can happen and just more word going out.
Thank you. And Mr. Anderson, how do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in Buffalo?
I think personally, my first answer right off the bat would be always to have people contacting me and asking questions or providing information, that kind of thing. One of the biggest things when I ran for city council was multiple people told me and tried to prepare me saying, you better be ready for all the telephone calls, emails, questions you're going to get when you're out in public. And I said, I'll be ready for it. I want to do that. I want to provide that if I'm elected. And honestly, I really haven't gotten a lot of that over the past 6 years, and I'm open to it. I wish people would call me with questions, email me, that kind of thing. I hear about other city council members that get emails or questions asked to them, and I don't get a whole lot of that. But when I do, I can tell you that I do reach out to people, and if I don't have an answer on something, I look to other city staff or other people to find the answers or get the information passed along so that we can get something done. Beyond that, I think the big thing is transparency, and that needs to start from everyone on the city, whether it's city council, the mayor, city administration. There's a lot of things out there that go on that I don't feel there's enough information that's passed along to the public and to the residents and taxpayers from the beginning. And I think we need to be doing a better job of that. And I think that's one of the big ways that we can communicate with people so they can start looking at what's going on with the city and they can start asking questions. And also, we can get their input better from the start.
Thank you. All right, next question, we'll start with Ms. Mattson. What key issues should the council focus on in the next 5 years? That's a lot to answer in 2 minutes.
Key issue or key
What
issues?
key issues should the council focus on in the next 5 years?
Well, I put my campaign together, my platform centers on community, communication, and competence. So we've talked a lot already about communication and reaching out to the public as opposed to just waiting for them to come for us. So I'll let that one sit and talk about community. I think overall we need to focus on community health and wellness. And under that particular umbrella can go, preserving our heritage. It can talk about meaningful community engagement. We can talk about recognizing citizens and groups for the work that they do. So community is just trying to bring us all back to a good group that respects one another and listens. Listening is a big one. And then competence. That one I kind of touched on with just some areas of cleanup that I think would be helpful, such as developing and maintaining handbooks for all the commissions and boards. Actually the airport has an excellent one that's recognized across the state. So I'd like to see people have more direction and then more meaningful training for people that are on those boards and within the council itself. And then making good use of, again, bringing the community together by using task forces. And I think when we can put more collaborations together and listen more to each other, I think that's going to go a long way.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, what key issues should the council focus on in the next 5 years, in your opinion?
I think one area that we constantly hear about people having concerns about and a lot of discussion is the downtown area in Buffalo. And every time that I've ran for city council, I've addressed that a little bit and said that we need to keep it the way it is with the quaintness and keep working on it, keep focusing on that. And really, I think that's going to be one of the biggest areas to look at over the next 5 years. We've had a lot of changes in the last couple of years on what's going on down there. But we also have some big projects coming up. We have a Highway 25 reconstruction going on down there that there's plans that are kind of currently in the way. The city council saw recently from the city engineer and what that's going to look like down there. And there are also going to be improvements along the lake down there. And that's going to include a lot of conversation, I hope, and direction from the residents on what they want to see down there at that point. The other area that we're going to be looking at is the current courthouse government center for Wright County area. They're going to be moving the courts very soon here this year. And then next year, the rest of everyone that's working in the government center is going to be working out and moving out to the new facility on the north end of town. So that's going to be a huge area that needs to look at what exactly is going to be done with that area at this point. And it's going to need to be a combination of city staff, city council, and the residents on what the best thing is to be done with that area. And I think that goes back to the question that we were just asked a little bit earlier on the communication. I think we need to keep that open right away off the bat to make sure that residents are aware of what's going on and get their input on what we need to do with that area.
Thank you. And Mayor Lockemeyer, what key issues should the council focus on in the next 5 years?
Well, there are several things that are always key to a council and to a city, and that's infrastructure and services. Our safety. We have to make sure that we're listening to the people who are feeling that there are any issues that have to do with safety and infrastructure, meaning our streets. We're the third largest growing county in the state of Minnesota, so we need to remember that if we're going to grow, we need to grow consistently through retail, commercial, and residential. We can't just grow in one area because then you lopside your tax base. So you want to make sure that you're growing consistently and that you make sure you're planning for your growth. So we have to be very, very consistent about the way we strategically plan our growth. And we have to make sure that we're working with, again, I think Eric stated it well, that downtown area, that heart that pumps the blood of our city and gives us that feel of community. Because without that feel of community, people don't want to live here. They'll feel just like they're stopping in and we're going to be a bedroom community. We don't want that. We want people to be able to get together with their families, share some experiences, utilize the services that we have in Buffalo and feel like they're living a quality of life, because that's what draws people here and what keeps them here and what sustains people to want to be here after they retire or when they're raising a family and their children grow up and want to bring their children back to grow up here. So I want to make sure that we're giving that quality of life, and I want to make sure that we're always working collaboratively. We can't just do this alone. We need to work with the school districts. We need to work with the Chamber of Commerce. We need to work with the county, because Eric's right, that courthouse is going to be gone, and then we're going to have this big space in the heart of our city that we need to make sure that we plan for accordingly, that it fits, that whatever we do there is going to be good for the greater good. So I want to make sure that if we're going to have this plan of growth, we're doing it collaboratively with everyone involved, and we do it strategically so that we plan for the future.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Anderson, does Buffalo have a racial equity problem, and how do we address it?
That's a hard question to answer. I know there's always people that have concerns about it, and there's comments about it. I don't know that it's directly been pointed out to me as something that is an issue, but as the city grows, that's something that needs to be looked at. And I think maybe, being in what I do for a profession in law enforcement, I see that in a town where I currently work at. And I think there's areas that can always be improved, and we need to bring people into the discussion on that, on how what changes need to be made and what needs to be looked at to improve that kind of thing and correct any issues that we have with it.
Thank you. Mayor Lockermeyer, does Buffalo have a racial equity problem, and how do we address it?
Well, obviously, it was brought up a couple months back when we were addressing it on Channel 4. Had a discussion with some people that do feel like there's an inequity and that we should have the conversation. We have to have it on all levels. We can't just have it on a city level. We've got to, again, like I said, that collaborative part that I feel is crucial. We've got to, the person who is in charge as a mayor in that position has to know those people at the table, and they have to trust that person. I like to work with the school district. I love working with the county. I love working with the Chamber of Commerce. And I love working with the principals of the schools because they're the people who are really in the know, and they're working with the people that are feeling this. And they need to have a voice. They need to be heard. And when we hear it on one level, then we need to pass it on to the next level, and we need to all be involved. And if there's concerns, we work on them and with them, not against them, and say there isn't something. Because if they say there is, then we need to do something about it. So yeah, I feel like we have a few conversations that need to happen in the near future. And just so that people feel comfortable and welcome, and that we're doing everything we can in our power to have those conversations.
Thank you. Ms. Madsen, does Buffalo have a racial equity problem, and how do we address it?
If we're defining racial equity in terms of numbers of people or percentages of people who might be not of the white race, then we probably have an issue with that, because there is an imbalance. So I had to sit down with the police chief, and I won't speak for him or what he said, but I think I came away from there with an understanding that we can have a humanity imbalance, where whatever the issue might be, whether it's of color or whether it is age or whether it is income or homelessness or whatever, we may have a humanity issue. And so that would be something, again, I would foresee that we have the right people at the table to talk about that. My work at the jail, I see certainly more people of color that are there than people who are white. So I see that up firsthand. I happen to have a biracial family, and I'm raising a little guy who's biracial. So it's a concern for me as to how everybody fits with respect and is listened to and appreciated for who they are. And when you see my little guy in preschool and him playing with all of his friends who don't care that his hair is curly, in fact, they like to pet his hair. So I just love the fact that we have this opportunity now to talk about it, and that it's at the forefront, and it needs to be worked on.
Thank you. Next question to Mayor Lockermeyer. What is Buffalo's biggest economic development opportunity?
We have several. I think in the future, we need to talk about a commercial park. We definitely have a need. It's been 30 years since we had our last commercial park open, and it's an opportunity to bring jobs to our community. That's one. I also feel like downtown is a huge one, because now that services are really starting to come to life down there, we've got a couple new restaurants that are going to come to life, and with the opportunity of the courthouse moving, these are places that, again, we need to have professionals as well as having stakeholders involved in that conversation. And that's what's happening right now. We've got a design planner who's been sitting down with stakeholders of the downtown, and they just want to know how they want it to look, how they want it to feel, what are they looking for, how do they feel about this. They're having these conversations, and it's been amazing, because I'm hearing, I don't attend those, because I really feel like it has to come from that group. It has to come from those people who maybe aren't on council or aren't the mayor or even aren't city staff, but someone coming in and showing us how to make that work downtown and how things should fit. So there's a lot of opportunity for us. And like I said, it should be residential, commercial, and retail. It can't just be one. And we have to continuously do something with that. and make sure that we're doing it in a way that'll help the people of Buffalo have more services and be able to kind of stay here and go to a restaurant or go to a boutique or get the drugstore, whatever they need is right here in Buffalo.
Thank you. Ms. Mattson, what is Buffalo's biggest economic development opportunity?
I believe at this point, since some are already in the works, is going to be what to do with possibilities where the courthouse will be vacating that space. And I think we don't need to be in a rush for what to do with that because sufficient planning needs to happen. It needs to be, I know we'll be working on a comprehensive plan and that will be worked into that as well. I believe more people need to come together to help make those decisions. I do have concerns about, there's a lot of focus on the downtown area. I wouldn't be the first person to say that some of our businesses across the tracks, so to speak, also have concerns and want to know where the focus is on their development and their economic development. I'm glad to hear Terry say about another industrial park out there and developing that and bringing people in because jobs are certainly needed here. And that also becomes an economic issue and development is to be able to find ways to keep people in this area and work.
Thank you. And Mr. Anderson, Buffalo's biggest economic development opportunity.
Well, I addressed the downtown area already, so I'm not going to go into that any further. But I think the biggest area that we need to focus on besides that is a commercial space in an industrial park. And like Mayor Lockermeyer said, it's been a long time since there's been anything done by the city of Buffalo. There are many communities around the city of Buffalo right now that have had industrial park areas that have sat vacant for many years. And now they're getting to the point where those areas in other cities are actually getting filled up. And some of them are actually bringing in large businesses. And this is a perfect opportunity for the city of Buffalo to take the lead on this and start looking at where exactly in the city can we put some type of space like that and what type of businesses can we bring in. We have a city administrator that has a lot of experience in doing that. We also have a person on staff for economic development, and I think it's a perfect time to draw on both of them and start focusing on that. There's been some discussion over the years by City Council that industrial park needs to be looked at, but no action was taken on it. And I think as if I'm elected as mayor, that would be one of the priorities that I would put on that top part of the list to actually start looking at that and bringing in developers or other people that can help focus on that and get a start to it.
Thank you. And our final question, and this will start with Ms. Mattson. How will you continue supporting residents and small businesses who lost income through the pandemic and emergency order over the next year?
Also a good one. There, I have appreciated that when the orders came down from the governor on how space could be utilized outdoors, that our current council then took measures to stretch things and welcome that and to help things work. And then to work with the chamber to also accommodate those needs. I'm concerned how things are going to happen once winter happens. We found that our businesses have been very resourceful, the ones that are making it right now, being very resourceful in keeping things open, finding new ways. I just received the information on how the CARES grant has helped with them. How we can go on through the winter, a lot of that's going to depend on what happens with things that come down from the governor. And I think the best we can do is advocate and do whatever we can as a council, as a mayor, as city administration to support the direction that businesses want to take.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, how will you continue supporting residents and small businesses who lost income through the pandemic and emergency order this year?
I think the answer to that obviously is this is such a revolving thing that we don't know what's going to happen next week, next month, at the beginning of next year. So it's going to take an adjustment on anything that we do to make changes or keep looking to the future to see what we can kind of do at that point. We have the assistant city administrator right now taking care of the current CARES Act funding that we've received and how it's being dispersed through funding and donations and that kind of thing to different businesses and that. And I think that's being handled in a perfect way right now. One of the other ways that we can actually reach out is, I think, by having the mayor, city council members talking to our area representatives and senators and trying to figure out ways on how we can get, if we need assistance, what can we be helped at from the state, and also looking at what the federal government is doing. So we need to be keeping that line of communication open and looking, like I said, the main point is looking down the road to see what happens, because we never expected this was going to happen, 9 months ago. And I think we're in a good position right now, but there are people and businesses that are out there struggling, and it's only going to continue to probably get worse for some of those people, residents, taxpayers, and businesses. And we need to do our best that we can to try and help them out and look at anything possible that we can do to help them.
Thank you. And finally, Mayor Lockemeyer, how will you continue supporting residents and small businesses who lost income through the pandemic and emergency order over the next year?
Well, there's a lot of different areas that we can concentrate on, but I think the number one thing we need to do is communicate with them. We need to remind them that we as the council are always there for them. And if there's anything they need that we can do within our powers, and Sue mentioned, if we can change an ordinance to make sure they can do business in a different manner just to keep the doors open, we need to do those things. We need to listen to if we need to be voicing that they are doing curbside delivery. And if you want to keep this business open, we need to be patronized. We need to go out there and spend our money there, the ones who aren't being affected. We need to help them do their business. And the people, let's say that, are having trouble with utility bills in the winter and they're not back to work or something. We need to have those discussions with residents who are struggling financially, and we need to listen to them and help them. If there's something out there, a grant that's available, we need to be there for them, listen to them, be compassionate and empathetic that it may not be us, but other people are suffering, and we need to do whatever we can to make sure that we're giving them the aid and the assistance with the CARES funding. And Eric said it well too, with reaching out to our representatives to make sure that they're doing their due diligence and getting those funding mechanisms in place so that we can go out and make sure they're getting to our community members. So just really be mindful, thoughtful, and communicating with them that we're here for them, and that if there are conditions that our residents are in, they need to come to us and let us know, because without knowing what's going on, we can't help them or make good decisions. We have to know what's going on, how we can do something. And I think that's something that I've always been open to make sure that we can, do what we need to do as a city, as a leadership board, to change whatever we need to change to get what they need to stay successful as a city and a community.
Thank you. Well, that concludes our forum, our 6 questions, and I'm assuming all of you are more than welcome to have questions. Your contact information is out on the city website, so if anybody in the city of Buffalo would like to ask any further questions of you, that you would be available to do so. And make sure that all of you come out and vote. So thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Good night.